At the 28th plenary meeting of United Nations General Assembly, 185 countries voted on behalf of Cuba and against the U.S. blockade against the island. Prison violence continues in Ecuador. The public prosecutor's office announced an investigation into reports of 2 new prisoner deaths and 6 police officers injured. In Brazil, the government team of President-elect Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva seeks to guarantee the benefits of social investment for the 2023 budget. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm your anchor, Gladys Quesada, and these are the news. On Thursday, at the 28th plenary meeting of United Nations General Assembly, took place the voting of the draft resolution entitled Necessity of Ending the Economic, Commercial and Financial Embargo imposed by the U.S. against Cuba, presented by Cuban Minister of Foreign Affairs Bruno Rodriguez. After issuing their statements before the General Assembly, member countries voted on the draft resolution for the 30th time. The final results concluded with 185 votes in favor, 2 against, being the United States and Israel, and 2 abstentions, being Ukraine and Brazil. All around the world, many demanded the end of this coercive measure that has only brought hardships to the Cuban people over the past 60 years. Speaking at the 28th plenary meeting of United Nations General Assembly, the Cuban Minister of Foreign Affairs, Bruno Rodriguez Parrilla, stated that the embargo imposed by the United States against Cuba is a deliberate act of economic warfare intended to obstruct the island's incoming revenues.
3 decades have gone by since this assembly first started to demand, as it has continued to do every year thereafter, the end of this U.S. policy against Cuba, which has been classified as an act of genocide and has the effect of a permanent pandemic, a never-ending hurricane, which has been universally rejected. It is a deliberate act of economic warfare intended to obstruct the country's incoming revenues, to destroy the government's ability to attend to the needs of the people.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cuba, Bruno Rodriguez, emphasized that the United States allocates tens of millions of U.S. dollars to finance the political apparatus that provokes misinformation, hatred, and destabilization in the Caribbean island.
The United States government allocates tens of millions of dollars from the federal budget, as well as some additional covert funds. It also recruits government and private institutions to finance the political operators who launch these disinformation, hatred, and destabilization campaigns on social media against Cuba.
In a contradictory manner, the United States representative to the UN indicated the rejection of the Cuban resolution.
The United States of America opposes this resolution, but supports the Cuban people, and we will continue to seek ways to support them. We encourage this body to urge the Cuban government to listen to the Cuban people's demands so they can shape their own future.
In Cuba, the Deputy Director General of the Division for the United States of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Joana Tablada, declared that the blockade has had a great impact on the development of the country and that the world is sending a message to the United States to put an end to the abuses against the nation.
The message sent by the world to the United States is exciting and forceful. No one more day with the blockade against Cuba, no one more day do we want to see the abuse and abuse. This is an immense victory for Cuba because it has to be placed in its proper context. We are talking about Cuba, in which the blockade has failed in its main purpose of overthrowing the revolution. but has been effective in deteriorating the standard of living of the Cubans. This vote comes at a time when the world is said how more Cubans have left this year than in previous year. It happens at a time when it has been seen that there is a shortage. It happens at a time when there is a difficult situation and that our president recognizes it, and we fight every day to try to solve by our own resources, but in very unfair conditions.
We'll take a short break, but first, remember you can follow us on our TikTok account at TeleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates and more. Other stories coming up, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. Prison violence continues in Ecuador. The Public Prosecutor's Office announced an investigation into reports of 2 new prisoner deaths and 6 police officers injured. Ecuador's National Service of Interior Attention to Adults Deprived of Liberty and Adolescent Offenders registered 2 fatalities in a cell in the Pichincha male penitentiary. Authorities evaluated the security crisis in the country at the Public and State Security Council and said that the violence left more than 18 attacks in 24 hours, 6 policemen dead, and prison riots. And Venezuela awarded on Thursday the Doctor Honoris Causa degree to the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Ralph Gonsalves, in virtue of the merits of this political, academic, cultural, and humanist career in favor of the emancipation of his people. The ceremony took place in the Gaston Parra Auditorium of the Central Bank of Venezuela in Caracas. Last October 27th, the Caribbean country celebrated its Independence Day, for which the President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, called on the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines to deepen relations of brotherhood and solidarity with Venezuela, due to the libertarian spirit shared by both nations.
It's a tremendous honor, not just for me, but for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the people of the Caribbean and of Latin America, all of us who have been struggling over the years, and those who have gone before us for Caribbean and Latin American unity.
The principal of the Bolivarian University of Venezuela, Sandra Oblitas, highlights the Caribbean and Latin Americanist vision of Ralph Gonsalves.
Well, today the Bolivarian University of Venezuela has had the honor of awarding an honorary doctorate to the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Comrade Ralph Gonsalves. Today, the university dresses in gala, honor and glory for having the privilege of awarding this distinction to a personality like Ralph Gonsalves, who has been a fighter totally committed to the cause of the peoples of the Caribbean and with the causes of the Latin American peoples, in addition to vindicating what has been the historical footprint of the operation of our peoples.
The President of Venezuela, Nicolás Maduro Moros, talked about his intention to rejoin the Indian community. The chief of the Venezuelan executive made the announcement and expressed that the nation is in a process of productive progress. He also said that all of these efforts have the sole purpose of increasing trade and building better economic ties with other countries. President Maduro emphasized that the Bolivarian nation is determined to join and have a relevant place within the Indian community of nations, which emerged as one of the integration proposals put forward by the Colombian President Gustavo Petro during his recent visit to Venezuela. In Brazil, the government team of President-elect Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva seeks to guarantee the benefits of social investment for the 2023 budget as part of the beginning of the political transition in the country. During a meeting held on Thursday at the National Congress, the representation of President-elect Lula da Silva emphasized the need to maintain the financial aid of 600 reals and to increase the minimum wage above inflation. At the same time, they discussed increasing investments in social programs, such as the popular pharmacy, and strengthening direct financing to citizens. The delegation, headed by the Vice President-elect Geraldo Alckmin, also announced an agreement to present a proposal to amend the Constitution to ensure the payment of these social benefits in next year's budget. Argentinian Vice President Cristina Fernández de Kirchner rejected Buenos Aires Federal Chamber's decision of releasing 4 of the members of Revolución Federal. The Vice President assured that she will appeal the decision of the Federal Court due to the scandal this release caused. The members of the Revolución Federal are accused of having participated in her assassination attempt. The Vice President's lawyer, José Manuel Ubeira, said that this was a fascist decision on the chamber, and he pointed out that this conveys the idea that those who want to violate the rule of law of the nation can do so with some degree of impunity granted by the judicial system. And we have more news coming up after a final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. In Algeria, the Arab Summit supports Saudi Arabia's decision to join OPEC Plus in the decrease in oil production. The Arab League approved the decision of the Saudi Kingdom to reduce the daily crude oil production of the members of the oil organization by 2 million barrels a day. On the other hand, the Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas requested the support of the members of the regional entity to spread the word about the Israeli genocide in Palestine. The request by the Palestinian head of state comes in the midst of an increase in Palestinian deaths at the hands of Tel Aviv's troops. NATO chief Jens Stoltenberg said Thursday Sweden and Finland were committed to work with Turkey to address its concerns ahead of their possible membership in the alliance. Stoltenberg stressed it is time to welcome Finland and Sweden as members of NATO. He told a press conference with Turkish Foreign Minister Mevlut Cavusoglu in Istanbul. In June, Turkey, Sweden and Finland struck a deal, which included provisions on extraditions and sharing information. The two Nordic nations earlier this year ditched their long-standing policies of non-alignment, asking to join NATO because of Russia's special military operation in Ukraine in February and how it reshaped Europe's security. United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres spoke to the media on Thursday about the Black Sea Grains Initiative with Russia and Ukraine and highlighted that the agreement is back on track and further complications will be avoided.
The Black Sea Grain Initiative is making a difference. I'm pleased to announce that today the initiative has hit a new milestone. As of today, 10 million metric tons of grain and other foodstuffs have been shipped through the Black Sea corridor. It has taken just 3 months to reach this milestone. Despite all the obstacles we have seen, the beacon of hope in the Black Sea is still shining and the initiative is working. It is our collective responsibility to keep it working smoothly.
Guterres also praised the recent permanent cessation of hostilities in Ethiopia after the parties involved reached an agreement.
Encouraging news from Ethiopia. 2 weeks ago, I stood before you and raised the alarm about the spiraling conflict. Today, I am pleased to commend the federal government of Ethiopia and the Tigrayan People's Liberation Front for yesterday's signing of a permanent cessation of hostilities. I salute the African Union's high-level panel, President Obasanjo, President Kenyatta, and our former colleague Pumzile, for their work in facilitating this agreement. It is a critical first step that paves the way for the unimpeded delivery of life-saving humanitarian aid and resumption of public services.
In China, the spokesperson for the Foreign Ministry, Zhao Lijian, described as unacceptable the interference of the United States in the business cooperation relations between China and Germany. The official rejected Washington's statements suggesting that the German government should prevent the Chinese shipping company Casca from acquiring a majority stake in the port of Hamburg. He said that this is a matter between two states and that the United States should not intervene. Germany's Federal Cabinet of Ministers recently approved the partial entry of the Chinese corporation with a 24.9% stake, and Chancellor Olaf Scholz called the decision the right one. We have come to the end of this news brief, but remember, you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media for all the latest news. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.